Everybody knows about Galeries Lafayette and Le Bon Marché, but have you actually been to the most beautiful department store in Paris? Let's travel to La Samaritaine. The history of this building goes back to the 19th century, and it is a beautiful example of Art Nouveau. Before we take off, I have to do some housekeeping here. This is a non-sponsored video. I'm just sharing my personal experience and my research here. Everything I say is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. Everything started in 1870 when Ernest Cognac opened his store on Rue du Pont Neuf, and it was strategically located because you had Les Halles nearby, so there were a lot of workers or strollers that passed by the shop. Very soon he built a reputation for being a very good salesman, and then also his wife joined, Marie-Louise, and what is special is that she had previously worked for Le Bon Marché, so she had a lot of knowledge working in department stores. So together they moved the store, they also turned it into a much bigger space. Over time the building became known for its Art Nouveau and Art Deco elements. I would like to mention one thing here: the elements that the building is known for today, the bold lettering, also the glassware for example, they were added much later. And then I would also like to briefly discuss what actually is Art Nouveau, what is Art Deco. So first of all, when we look at the style, they are different because Art Nouveau is a bit more nature inspired. The lines are more flowing. We have a lot of floral inspired elements. Also the colors are a bit more natural, we can say. Art Deco, I would say, is the bolder sister because we have geometric lines, clearer lines, also bolder colors. And then of course there's a difference in the timeline. Art Nouveau was rather around the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, and then Art Deco was in the 1920s and 30s. Of course it depends on the region, and also sometimes these timelines blend into each other. In 1910 the building, planned by Franz Chaudin and Henri Sauvage, was completed, and until today we have this bold lettering saying La Samaritaine, and this actually goes back to a water pump near the Pont Neuf, where there was a bas-relief of a Samaritaine woman giving water to Christ. This water pump has disappeared, but the department store is still around. Cognac started out with textiles, but then he diversified, and La Samaritaine soon became known for more than just the products. They were among the first to introduce pricing that you could actually see when you were interested in a garment, for example. And they also let you try on the clothes, which was also a first. And then also the product portfolio became so big that there was this famous saying, "On trouve tout à la Samaritaine." You can find anything at La Samaritaine. Many elements that are so iconic for the building today, as I said before, the lettering, the floral elements, the glasswork, they were added much later, but we can clearly see Chaudin's handwriting, so we can clearly see the Art Nouveau influence. The building itself was made from steel, and all the adornments were added to soften the look. And you will immediately notice it. First, it's the colors. It's the green, the yellow, the white and the gold of the ceramic plates. But then you also see the bold lettering. You see the floral adornments on the outside. And then when you move inside, it's just so impressive to see the steel staircase, also the adornments on the side, and also the frescoes, especially in the top part, and also the glass roof are really beautiful. Unfortunately, the original department store had to close in 2005 due to safety reasons. The building was then bought by LVMH, and a lot of Parisians were a bit worried or nervous about the future of the department store because LVMH is a luxury conglomerate. Would they turn it into a luxury mall? And there are already so many luxury malls in Paris anyways. And this kind of happened because, yes, the new La Samaritaine is also a luxury department store, which is a bit ironic because the original department store actually catered to a more modest clientele than its competitors Galeries Lafayette or Le Bon Marché. So yes, it kind of happened that it was turned into a luxury mall, but I have to say that LVMH did it in a very respectful way to the building. Already since 2001, LVMH had owned a stake in La Samaritaine. In 2010, they bought out the remaining shares from the foundation owning them. And then the whole renovation project took them 15 years, and 280 French companies were involved in this huge renovation project. And I think they did the original building justice. The risk with these renovation projects is very often that they can look like Disneyland, but this still feels very authentic, very original. And then they also added a new annex, a new building. And for me, the problem is very often if you merge old and new. It very often does not go together. It can look a bit tacky. For this project, they worked with the Japanese architecture company SANAA. I think in this case it was done really well, because I have to say I passed by this building, the new part of the building, multiple times without actually noticing it, because it just kind of blends into the neighborhood. And this says a lot, because it's a very futuristic building in the middle of a very traditional looking neighborhood. So I think this was done really well, but also the building itself with the waves, it's really interesting. It looks really cool. And when we look at the heritage building, which was also very progressive, very forward, I think it's a very good match with this new structure. The new Samaritaine hosts not only the department store, also a hotel, the Cheval Blanc, which is also, of course, owned by LVMH. There are apartments, there even is a kindergarten. And then they also basically restored the glass roof that I mentioned before from 1907. This glass roof had been altered and covered up, but they managed to bring it back to its original grandeur. So I think this is a very beautiful thing that they did. And it's really about the details here, especially for me as an art historian. That was really interesting to see, because the smallest things, from the facades to the staircases to small paintings, they were all restored in a way that they would reflect the original state. And about 2,300 glass panels were restored. Another very interesting thing is the peacock fresco, which is 115 meters long and 3.5 meters high. It sits just below this glass roof, and it was painted by Francis Jourdain, who was the son of the architect, and also this was meticulously restored. And this peacock is a very important link back to Art Nouveau, because it was a popular motif, because it stood for not only beauty, but also immortality, the divine feminine. Also, it's very often linked to the Greek goddess Hera. And the peacock in Art Nouveau can be found in architecture, on paintings, also on jewelry. And it was also very popular in the British arts and crafts movement, especially for William Morris. And then it made its way to France. And maybe you even walked through peacock art, because some of the metro stations in Paris were designed by Hector Guimard, and they imitate the fantail of the peacock. I really enjoyed visiting La Samaritaine. And what about you? Have you visited, or did you know about the history of this iconic building? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to do 2 things that really help creators like me. First of all, please like this video and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you prefer to read about fashion, I have a lot of articles on my website, thepinklookbook.com, and if you have time, please also stop by my fashion label, Pelagona. And if you enjoyed this video about art, architecture and fashion, I have another video for you which may be interesting. Thank you very much for joining me in this video, and see you in the next one.